All right, let's dive into a really wild, really important moment in D&D history. It all started with one book, a book that was supposed to fix a massive problem, but instead, it accidentally created a whole new, epic way to play the game we love. So, picture this. It's 1976, and Dungeons & Dragons is kinda broken. Players were getting so ridiculously powerful that they were basically tearing the game's reality apart at the seams. And the creators had to figure out, what on earth do you do about a character that's level 44? And you can just feel the frustration in this quote from Tim Kask, an editor at TSR back in the day. This wasn't just some small rules tweak they needed. For them, it was a full-blown crisis, and they were ready to bring down the hammer to solve it. Yeah, the problem even had a nickname that perfectly summed up how absurd it was. The Monty Hall problem. Like the game show Let's Make a Deal. It was a total dig at campaigns where DMs were just handing out treasure and XP like it was nothing. So what does that actually mean? Well, basically, dungeon masters were being super generous, leading to these characters who were walking around with godlike powers and reality-bending artifacts. I mean, how do you even begin to challenge players like that? And you have to remember, this was the Wild West of D&D. Just look at how fast everything was happening. In just a couple of years, you get the original game plus 3 huge supplements throwing in new classes, psionics, the works. It was this incredible burst of creativity, but it was also pure chaos, and that's what led to this whole power creep mess. So, TSR knew they had to do something, and do it fast. And their big solution? It came in supplement VVI, Gods, Demigods, and Heroes. They even pitched it as the final supplement for D&D, as if this was going to be the last word on power, forever. On the surface, their logic seemed pretty solid, right? They were going to publish the actual official stats for gods like Zeus and Odin. The whole point was to metaphorically sit the players down and say, hey, see this? This is Odin, the Allfather. You think your little level 44 character is a big deal? You're not even in the same league. And this number right here, this was supposed to be the mic drop. 300 hit points. For Odin, the top god of the Norse pantheon, this number was meant to be mind-bogglingly huge. In a game where your tough-as-nails fighter might have, under 100 hit points, 300 was meant to feel absolutely untouchable. But, and this is the best part, this is where the entire plan just completely spectacularly backfired. In trying to make the gods invincible, TSR accidentally did the exact opposite and created a paradox that defines high-level D&D to this day. You see, they created what is now a golden rule in game design. If you give it stats, you can kill it. The second Odin had a hit point number next to his name, he wasn't this abstract, unknowable force anymore. He was just another monster on the page, albeit one with a very, very big health bar. So you have this massive disconnect. TSR thought they were teaching a lesson about limits, but the players, they looked at this book and saw the ultimate high-level monster manual. It wasn't a power ceiling, it was a divine hit list. And the effect was immediate. I mean, you literally had 8th graders bragging at the lunch table about how their party tucked down Zeus over the weekend. Players started figuring out how to use spells like Gate to just pop over to Asgard for a raid. The endgame completely shifted from clearing out dungeons to assassinating deities and taking their place. But this whole paradox didn't just create a new way to play, it went so much deeper. It fundamentally rewired the DNA of Dungeons & Dragons itself, and we still feel those effects today. Let's take the cleric class for instance. Before this book, the cleric was kind of a generic holy warrior, fighting for these big abstract ideas of law or chaos. But gods, demigods, and heroes gave you a whole menu of actual gods to worship. All of a sudden, your cleric wasn't just some good guy, he was a champion of Thor, or maybe a dark priest of Set. It gave the class the strong identity it has now. The book was also just this massive injection of lore. We're talking 11 different pantheons, pulling from real-world myth, from pulp fiction. It was huge. This is where D&D gets monsters that are still staples today, like the Rakshasa and the Sphinx. It even connected the D&D universe to the Cthulhu mythos. And of course, if you can kill a god, you can take their stuff. This book detailed some of the most powerful magical items you could imagine. We're not talking about your basic +1 sword here. We're talking about universe-shaking artifacts, like Odin's spear Gungnir, or a ring that literally makes you infinitely wealthy. This became the new endgame loot for high-level players. So what do we make of this book today?
Well, its legacy is complicated. It was flawed, it was controversial, but you know what? It was also one of the most essential books in the game's entire history.
The community was completely split on it. You had some people calling it an absolute treasure for DMs, praising how it made all these cool myths playable. And then you had others who just hated it, calling it the least important supplement ever, just a boring list of stats with a really condescending tone. And if all that drama wasn't enough, the book also created a massive legal headache. Turns out, the authors had included characters from Conan the Barbarian and the Elric saga without actually getting permission. Whoops. That led to legal threats and forced TSR to be a lot more careful going forward.
But here's the thing. Despite all the flaws, the arguments, and the legal mess, this supplement was so important. It was basically the rough draft, the test run for what would eventually become the polished and much-loved Deities and Demigods hardcover for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons.
In the end, the book's real legacy is that paradox it created. By trying to prove that the gods were invincible, it accidentally cemented the core philosophy of high-level D&D ever since. If it has a stat block, it can be killed. Which really leaves you with a fascinating thought, doesn't it? Was this failed attempt to control the players actually a stroke of accidental genius? By trying to put a cap on the game's power, did TSR inadvertently unlock its most epic, most memorable adventures? It's a perfect reminder that sometimes the best things in a game happen when you break the rules.